if you have a long time horizon and you put that money to work in equities, right? That compounding effect is going to take over time. And our money that's making money is eventually going to even make money.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited today because we have a special guest, and her name is Marissa Grigorial. And Marissa is a licensed personal finance coach. She's an educator as well as a holistic retirement planner who has managed the wealth portfolios of over 300 clients for the last 6 years. Now, Marissa has penned this book really after seeing just a lack of financial resources and educational material that the everyday person can really understand and really be able to have the financial tools that they need in order to implement strategies to build wealth. Now, Marissa's mission is very simple, is to get more money into your hands by removing the overwhelm and guesswork that's associated with building financial wealth. Please join me in welcoming Marissa to the platform. Hey, Marissa, how are you today?
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you today to talk about personal wealth building because, in Profit First, we're very intentional about our profit, right? And we
Yeah.
maximize our corporate retirement strategies. And then also, one of the things that naturally happens is there's a lot of cash left over on the personal side. So, Marissa, today, let's talk about what do we do with that cash so that it starts to compound itself.
Yeah, exactly. Let's jump right in. So, the first step when it comes to personal finance and building wealth is really making sure that you have the foundational things in place. So, the first foundational strategy you want to have in place is to really make sure that you have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in cash. And this is for any emergencies that might come up. This actually happened to me this year. We had, I think, 5 inches of rain within an hour and ended up flooding my basement. Even though I'm not in a flood zone, I had flooring down there, which we had to completely replace. The whole project ended up being around $7,000. This was something I never anticipated ever happening, but it did. So the bottom line is things happen and we need to be prepared for them. So having an emergency fund in place where you can then tap into funds really, really quickly that are liquid is definitely the first foundational thing you want to look into.
I love that. So making sure that you have that emergency fund, right? Because so many people don't have that emergency fund and the first thing they resort to is credit card debt, right? And so you're starting backwards because you got to pay somebody that interest rate before you could even begin to move forward, right? In terms of building your own wealth. So I love that, Marissa, making sure that you have that background. And then what other tips that can we do to start to build that? What's the next step?
Yeah, so once we have our cash in place, then we're really looking at, okay, are we protected from an insurance perspective? Because if we don't protect ourselves from an insurance perspective and something comes up, like let's say that your arm gets injured and you can no longer type and you can no longer do your business and bring in income, well, then everything you're working towards anyway could, be completely destroyed at that point. So we need to make sure we have the proper insurance in place. What is the proper insurance? Usually you're looking at life insurance, disability insurance, health insurance. If you own a home, obviously auto and home, and an umbrella policy, which a lot of people don't know about or get, to really protect you even further above your auto and your home policies. But this is really, again, foundational stuff that if we don't have the right insurances in place and you're investing already or you have your emergency fund, all of that might be depleted if we're not properly protected. And not to mention, if you're a business, you really need to then have some type of business liability insurance as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Being in Houston, we are no stranger to the traumatic impact of disaster, right? We've had
Mm,
several hurricanes that have happened, in addition to the COVID that everybody else has experienced. And it always never ceases to amaze me just how many people don't have basic like homeowners insurance, right? And
yeah.
I remember when Harvey hit, there were so many mansions, and I'm not talking about low-end homes, I'm talking about mansions, right, that were a block away from our home. And, they were on our next door, which is like that app that the neighbors kind of chat about. And they were saying they didn't have health, not health insurance, but they didn't have homeowners insurance. And a lot of people when they're going through it, they think, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to spend that extra $1,000 a year." But imagine having your biggest asset lost. It ends up being an investment, even though it was an expense, right, all along all these years. Because the thing about disasters is you never know when they're going to happen. And so that insurance, is very, very important. It's making sure that you have the insurance to cover your needs. Now, Marissa, do you
Exactly.
have guidance on insurance, like how much we should get or what do we need?
Yeah, so with life insurance, if you have a spouse that needs income replacement if you're not there, or you have kids and you're thinking about sending them to college potentially, and their needs have to be covered as well if you're not there. And if you have any kind of debt, like a mortgage, credit card loans, business loans, all of that should be covered with insurance so that your spouse is not then left with, debt and paying that on their own. So those are kind of just the key words, I guess you could say. If you have children, you need income replacement, you have lots of debt or any debt, those are things you would want to cover with life insurance for sure. And then disability insurance, I mean, we should all have that, especially if you're a business owner, and you're relying on your income, your family is relying on your income. You want to make sure that you're covering that income that's coming in, right? So disability policy is really, really important and more likely, obviously, than an early death. So that's something to concentrate on. And if you're a business owner, you can actually write off the premiums. So that's kind of nice for your disability policy. So at least you're getting a little break there. And then, yeah, you definitely want to have the basics as far as health insurance, auto, home. And an add-on would kind of be an umbrella policy, which I find a lot of people don't have. So an umbrella policy will actually step in over your auto and your home. So let's say that you get in an accident and someone sues you for $1 million. Well, most auto policies will only cover you up to $300,000. And then you have to pay the rest out of pocket. So if you have an umbrella policy and let's say it's $1 million, it would step in and cover that extra $700,000 that potentially you would have had to take out of your personal assets. So that is a great addition to add on, especially if you have some assets you're trying to protect.
I love that. That's really great advice. So Marissa, what else can we do to really start to build our wealth? Maybe we can dive into those investment strategies.
Yes. So we have our 3 to 6 months emergency fund. Then we have our insurance basics down, right? And now we're ready to invest. We're ready to go there. So it depends, if you're a business owner, if you're not. If you're a business owner, you're usually looking at investment accounts such as a SEP IRA, SEP IRA, or a solo 401k. Or if you have a larger corporation, you might be looking at, a simple IRA or a 401k plan for your employees. It really depends what stage you're at. If you're just starting out, the simplest account to probably go into and to help you from a tax perspective is that SEP IRA. So if you're self-employed, you don't have other employees, and you're really only worrying about yourself, that is a great account to go into because it's going to reduce your taxable income. So let's say you earned $100,000 and you put 20,000 into the SEP IRA. Well, now we brought our income down from 100 to 80K. So you effectively didn't pay tax on that 20,000, which who doesn't want to save tax at the end of the day?
Definitely. We all wanna wanna save taxes at the end of the day. That's very, very important with that. Now, you bring out, there's a strategy, right? Making sure, one, that, you've got the reserve in your bank account, right, to cover those unforeseen events. Two is being able to cover those disasters, right, that might happen. And three is, the retirement options. Now, is there a order that you like to see things in? Like, should they be investing at the same time of getting insurance? Should they get insurance first? What is the order of things to make sure that we're building wealth and doing it, I guess, in the most advantageous way?
That's a great question. So I actually have something I call my 6 point prosperity plan. And it's the order of steps that we do things. And it's exactly what we've been walking through here today. First, you need to make sure your cash is established. Like if your emergency fund isn't established, there's no point to skipping to investing because potentially emergency comes up and then you have to pull from your investments anyway because you didn't have the right amount of cash. So that's step one. Step two is exactly what you said, insurance. You want to make sure that we're protected again so that we're not going to have to pull from our investments. If you get disabled and you no longer have income coming in. And then third, now we move on to investments once our foundation is down. And usually with your investment plan, I take a mixed approach where I max out retirement accounts as much as I can to reduce my tax. And then all my extra savings, I'm actually putting in more liquid investments. So if something does come up, I could always get them back and use the money towards, a down payment on a house or kids' education or whatever, comes up in life.
Definitely. So, Marissa, once we have those three things set aside with our unplanned emergencies, those whether it be through insurance or with a cash balance, right? Making sure that we grow our reserves. What is the best strategy for really investing from a personal level?
That's a great question. So the first thing is you really want to know what your asset allocation is. And asset allocation is what is the percentage of your portfolio that's in cash, bonds, and equities. And equities are obviously stocks that, those are when you own a company and they're fluctuating up and down, that's a stock. A bond is more a loan from the government. So you're actually giving your money to the government, and because they're taking your money and doing what they want with it, they pay you back, right? A coupon rate. So you really want to know the mix of this in your portfolio because that determines 90% of your return. A lot of people come to me and they're like, Marissa, what healthcare stock should I buy? What technology stock should I buy? And my answer is always none, 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 none. Because the thing is, one, I am a big believer in mutual funds versus buying individual stocks. And I'll get into that in a second. But two, you really want to buy equities in a diversified portfolio. So you really don't want to be looking to buy just one space. You want to buy multiple spaces. And this is really going to reduce your risk. And that's why mutual funds are great because they're a basket of stocks. You're not just buying one stock, you're buying thousands of stocks in a mutual fund. So for instance, when you just buy Zoom, let's say we're on Zoom right now. If you just buy Zoom, that's a small cap company. You're relying just on Zoom to earn profits. But if you buy a small cap equity fund, there are thousands of small cap companies in that fund, not just Zoom, thousands. So if one goes bankrupt or one doesn't perform the way we want, it doesn't matter because we really only have a small percentage in that company. So that's how we can reduce our overall risk. So you first want to know, what is the percentage you have in equities, bonds, and cash? Because that's going to determine 90% of your return. So if you earn 10%, 9% came from just how much you put in equities. And a lot of people don't think it's what you buy. And actually what you're actually buying, the individual stocks or the mutual funds or the bonds, is only 10% of the return. And that's what everyone focuses on. So I really tell people we need to get clear on your asset allocation, how much you want to put at risk, how much you want to put in equities. And obviously, the more you put in equities, the more return you're going to make. The less you put in equities, the less return you're going to make, but the less volatility you will also have. So you need to get clear on how much you want to have invested, and then how do you actually want to invest it in individual stocks or mutual funds. My preference is mutual funds because I found that this really reduces risk, but also increases return over time.
I love that. That is really great advice. One of the biggest challenges that I hear people say is, obviously they know what they need to do, right? They know they need to be saving. They know that they need to have this reserve, right? But they don't do it, right? They literally don't do it because otherwise, you wouldn't have so many people just hammering for Social Security benefits and the stimulus money that's happening, right? So, what is the biggest challenge with starting to invest and starting to build personal wealth, and how do we overcome that?
Yeah, that's an amazing question because the bottom line is we live in a society where we want instant gratification. So saving doesn't do that because saving means you're putting off money now for a later time, right? So we are not great at saving. One way you can really fix this though is something I call paying yourself first. So literally on the first of the month, set up an automatic contribution from your paycheck into your retirement accounts or into your emergency fund if you still have to build that. And this is the first thing that happens before we pay our bills, before we pay our mortgage, before we pay our taxes, before we pay kids' activities and our dogs and all the things. We pay ourselves first. When you do this, you are ensuring that you are going to hit your savings goal for the year. And so I call this actually reverse budgeting, where you pay yourself first, and then whatever money is left over from your paycheck, now we use that money to budget with. Now we use that money to pay our expenses, to, give money to the kids and all the things.
I love that, guys. Do not be paying your dog before you pay yourself, right? Do not. I mean, I see dogs walking around in mean coats. We do not want to be paying the dog first. Pay yourself first,
Exactly.
because the dog probably won't be there when you retire, right? So don't pay the dog first. And I love that. Exactly. Implementing profit first in your personal life as well as your business. Like the profit
Exactly.
first, we pay our profit first, right? And now you need to pay yourself first, pay your retirement first, pay the future self first, where you pay the dog, right? I love that idea. That is incredibly good, because just like in profit first, we're constantly wanting to work with Parkinson's law, right? We want to work with our
Mhm.
natural human behavior. And if there's less there that can be used to pay the dog or put kids in sports, or to go on vacation, right? When there's only a limited amount of money that's available for that, we're going to use that limited amount.
Yep.
And we've already set up our intention, that envelope for that personal retirement. I love that. That is some really juicy morsels and real gifts that
Mhm.
Marissa has just given us. So thank you, Marissa, for that.
You're welcome.
Now, Marissa, as we wind down our show, one of the things that I love to ask our guests is if you could leave us with one piece of advice, and it can be personal, it can be business, really, that can really propel us forward to really take that next step in our venture, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say just start wherever you are, because a lot of people are like, oh, I only have an extra $10 to put away, or I only have an extra $50 to put away. That's okay. If you have a long time horizon and you put that money to work in equities, right? That compounding effect is going to take over time. And our money that's making money is eventually going to even make money. And that's where, the true beauty of investing comes into place, is that we can put little time and energy into investing and make huge returns over the long run back. And there's a reason, over the entire history of the stock market, the average rate of return is around 10%. Okay. So if you just take advantage of time and start where you are, even if it's $10 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, and try to increase slowly year after year, you're really going to set yourself up nicely for retirement. But all too often, I see women just put it off, put it off. Then they wake up at 50 years old and now they're like, I have 15 years left to save near $1 million. And that's the other thing, is I do think people really underestimate what they're going to need in retirement. And I help, a lot of women come up with what is the actual need that you're going to need. Because if you don't know what you need, you can't start saving today the correct amount. So that's why you really want to put some numbers on paper, figure out what your retirement need might be, and then work backwards and start saving that amount today so that you can get to, retirement and really enjoy your life and not have to worry about money.
Start now, start now. Don't delay it. When I was starting my career, I started in Anderson in Chicago. And I remember I did the math when I first got out of school and started my first job. And I was like, you know what? If I just put away $33 a week, at the age of 22, 23, I'll be a millionaire, you know?
Exactly.
And by the time I was gonna, I think like 50, it was like the number was like crazy. And it's those small steps. It's those small
Exactly.
steps that get you to where you're going. I love the saying that you'll always overestimate what you can do within a year, right? But you'll
Hmm.
underestimate what you can do in 5 years. So it's those small steps, like Marissa said, just to get started, to start to build your personal wealth.
Exactly.
Now, Marissa, thank you so much for being with us today. Now, if our viewers and listeners can contact you, because they want to contact you, they want to be able to work with you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so I actually have a Facebook group called Bottom Up Wealth. and you guys can join that group. And I offer a lot of education in there. I have a lot of videos, free resources and trainings for you guys to learn more about personal finance and really how to start building retirement funds so that you can do all the things you want to do, right? So you can join that group. It's called Bottom Up Wealth, and I will see you inside there.
Thank you, Marissa. So everybody, Bottom Up Wealth, I will also go ahead and put Marissa's contact information in the show notes so that you can get in touch with her to learn about building your wealth. Thank you, Marissa, so much for
Thank you
joining
so
us
much for
today.
having me.
Thank you.